I think that's it. Yeah. I think I'm recording.
Yeah, yeah. It says it's recording. So, did you guys read the case study this week?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was different than the usual ones.
Yeah. I actually missed this one, but I do know the story about him. It's so I'm guessing it was about how he was disqualified because he was doing drugs, right? But then pretty much everybody was doing drugs, so it was kind of like a discussion of whether it was fair or not because he was the only one who got in trouble for it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, it was kind of confusing. I usually don't read like the whole thing because it has like a lot of background information that I'm like, this isn't really like necessary to the case study.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it was background of like he wasn't completely like cheating or whatever. He wasn't completely relying on the supplements or the drugs or whatever because he
Mhm.
had traits of like a really good athlete. Like his lung capacity was really good and like I don't know, like there's a couple other things. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, it was I don't know. He wasn't completely reliant on the drugs. So I feel like that was kind of a interesting thing to the case study, but other than that, there's just so much unnecessary information added. But yeah, I have some of the questions pulled up. I was able to find them. I feel like it's always a scavenger hunt to find the questions that we're supposed to ask, but I have them pulled up. Does anyone else have the questions pulled up for this week?
I don't, but I can pull mine up
Yeah, it's okay.
too.
I don't know. I think that we can all like ask questions. I don't want to be like the only one or whatever. I don't want to take over
Yeah,
the
I was reading here. I think this is the first um, meeting that it says that we should choose the question and just analyze this whole question, the whole meeting. So yeah, and
um I mean the first question, let me look at the thing real quick.
well, the first thing it says begin with a quick synopsis of the land assumption case, and then it says select discussion questions you feel will best help your group to learn the most from this case.
Yeah, I mean I really like the first couple of questions, like the what is really going on in this case, and then what like you find interesting. I feel like those ones could be good for the discussion. I don't know.
Yeah,
For
we
me,
can just go through those one by one. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. So for me, if I understood the case correctly, he was he had these abilities, and as you said, Lauren, his lung capacity was better, and he had these how you say these benefits that helped him being a better athlete. And after that, I think he got cancer, right? And that's when when he recovered, and then he started to compete again. That's when he started to use the drugs. And after all, he started a company that fights this, right? It's the whole summary of the case, I think. I don't know if I missed something important.
Did it say that he started using the drugs after he had won the Tour of France? Or did he like just go into it doing the drugs? I can't remember what they said.
I think he won one, and after that, he started.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I thought that I read that, but I couldn't remember.
Should I would you guys like me to share share my screen with the questions and then I don't know, just so we're
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
I don't
If
know,
you
I
want
like
to.
visuals.
Yeah.
Franco, can you enable me to share?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Can you now?
Yes. Yes, yes. Okay. All right,
Hopefully
can you guys see
Angelo
it?
can join. I keep seeing that Angelo is like joining, but then it drops his call.
I know, I feel so bad for him. He really struggles with internet. Okay, so what's going on in the case is that he wasn't on the drugs, but then he won his tour in France, and then after that he started doing the drugs. And then did he continue racing after France?
He did 7, or he won, I think, 7 races. I think that's what it said. Was he won 7 of the Tour de France races?
Okay. All right. So what is interesting about it?
I think it's interesting that he admitted to doing the drugs on like a talk show. Like out of all the ways that he could have like came out formally and said it like to his fans or whatever, because he had denied it over and over and over again. And it was also said in the case study that he would put the blame on other people. Like he'd be like, no, or he would also like he would be a hypocrite and go off on the people that like when they found out that other teammates were doing drugs, he would
Mhm.
like attack them or whatever, even though himself he was
Was
doing
doing it.
drugs at the same time. But yeah, I thought that that was interesting though, that he like instead of formally coming out and saying like, hey, like I'm sorry, or like I've been doing these drugs or whatever, I apologize and I shouldn't be doing it. He said it on like a talk show with I was it Oprah, the Oprah show or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, and he just like admitted to it. He didn't really say much about it. She was just like, "So did you do drugs then? Like what specific ones did you do?" And he was just like, "Yep, I did it then. Yep, I did it then, or I did these ones." So I don't know, I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm like, that's kind of a weird way to admit that you were doing illegal substances on a talk show, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Huh. Maybe he was just sick of lying. I don't know. He was like, you know
Yeah,
what? I'm
yeah.
done lying.
And I mean, he had
Maybe.
already won so many races. I didn't even know that they made money from these races. I think it was like 8,000 euros or something like that that they would win every Tour de France. So, I mean, that was a big motivation, was making money and also publicity and fame and whatever. But yeah, I think he just got a little comfortable too. Like he won, I think 5 or 6 races while doing drugs, which I don't know how
Yeah.
you can get away with that, but I
Also, at
don't
the
know.
same time, I think he got this foundation that after he got cancer and everything, he was raising a lot of money from it, and everyone who would compete, they were just donating money and using these bracelets and probably raising more money out of that, and he was just lying about it. And so, yeah, she's still learning. He was kind of a hypocrite about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't deal with that. Like hypocrisy bothers me so much. So that really stood out to me when like he literally had criticized other people for doing drugs when he was doing the same exact thing. Like I
Yeah.
I don't get that, but
Not a lot of integrity there.
yeah, for real. Fame really gets to your head, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. He was probably, it might have also been like a tactic for him to like try and brush off or try to make it seem more like he wasn't doing them. Like maybe that was just kind of another way for him to seem like he wasn't partaking in them because he was saying, oh, well, they should be doing that. And he's like, oh, maybe if I, talk crap on them, maybe people won't think that I'm doing them too. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
if that was his thought process, but
yeah.
possibly,
Yeah.
which is
I think
definitely not a good way. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I think that that can definitely be a point. Like trying to say like well, a lot of people do that, like I don't know, people talk trash about certain things, even though like they're jealous of those people. So I definitely feel like it could be a factor in this too, like him saying like, oh, I'm so against that, like we shouldn't give those people attention, when really it's like you're doing the same thing. I think it was just like, I don't know, try to give this perception that he was against it, so why would he do it, like if he's so against it. um yeah, definitely, I like that point.
I think
Yeah, it kind of
it's
reminds me of
crazy that. Oh, I'm sorry, Teresa. Go on.
No, you go. You go.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that I think it's crazy that he actually confessed and everything at the end, because people who lives a lie for so much time, I think they just turn a little crazy. Oh,
Yeah, it's like they
I
start believing their own lies.
yeah, I remember I had this bad experience in my ward, my family's ward at church. That we had a bishop who was stealing from tithing, and it was crazy. It's an awful situation. But he did it
Mhm.
from the start of his calling. He started the first year and did it for like 4 or 5 years, and we could see that he was going kind of crazy. We thought it was because of pressure of being a bishop and everything, but at the end he was like just he never confessed. He was caught. That's why why we knew about it. But he was living the lives for so much time that he was probably not even find the strength to confess, or maybe he just couldn't get out of it. I don't know. I don't know how could be possibly to live in that situation, because living a lie and just keep doing all these things and not knowing how to get out of it. That must be very, very hard. And also, I think people just get crazy about it. They don't know what to do.
I think justification is a big part of it. I think a lot of people, I think it tends to start with something small and then they justify it by saying, oh, well, it's just this, or, everyone else is doing it. Like, I don't know. I think they start by justifying it. And then once they start with that justification process, they just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until they're so far into it that there's no rectifying the situation. There's only admitting, you know?
Yeah, it's a snowball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like people also kind of get like a rush, like an adrenaline rush when they know that they're like getting away with something that they shouldn't, especially when they're getting
Mhm.
stuff out of it, like money or like people that steal or whatever. Like it becomes an addiction, like people legit have a stealing addiction. They get like a rush from stealing stuff. I feel like it could
Mhm.
definitely be something that Lance Armstrong was going through too. Like he was just getting a rush by getting away with this. And also just like exercise in general, people say there's like that high that you get from exercising. So I feel like there's a lot of emotions going on, and I don't know, I feel like he just got addicted to it. And he could have also gotten addicted to the drugs too, because he's doing drugs. So yeah.
Yeah. I think another thing that's worth bringing up too is the fact that so many people were doing it as well. I think that, I mean, we really focus on him because he ended up admitting it, but I would think if I know correctly, a lot of people were doing it and they were just kind of allowing it to happen. Like the doctors and stuff within the Olympics knew that all of these different people were taking these steroids and they just were like, oh, well, that's just what they do. So they just kept allowing it to happen. You know what I mean? I feel like there were some missed opportunities where it could have been prevented prior, but since everybody was doing it, they just were like, oh, well, that's just the way it is. So they just pushed it through. Right? Was there something in there about that?
Um,
Or
I
that
I don't know. I
figured
had thought of that though. Like I thought of because like when we're trying to think of ways to prevent like this from happening again, like in the case study where it's like, how can we prevent this from happening? I was like,
Mhm.
well, and I mean, I can talk about this later too, but a point that I thought of was, what if he was like paying off doctors and whatever, saying like, I'll give you this money if you say I'm not on these drugs or I'm not taking these supplements or whatever. That's kind of something that
Yeah.
I thought of, because that happens. People get paid off. People will take money and be
Yeah.
dishonest. So
All the
yeah, that's
time. All
something
the
that I
time.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to bring up. I don't like at the end of the day, I think it's just your ethics, like what and your integrity, do you have integrity? Because a lot of people might not, but if you're that one person who does, you can, stop it from happening everywhere. You know what I mean? If you're just that one person that speaks up and puts a stop to it.
Yeah, I think he also let it go on for so long because he was so well known. Like, I feel like I really don't know many like cyclists or runners or whatever. Like, I just don't know their names. I know like football players or baseball players or whatever, but never like cyclists. And he was such a
Yeah.
well-known person. And I
Mhm.
think he just wanted to keep that going. He knew that if people found out about it, if he admitted to it, then all of that would go away. Like his um what's the word for it? I'm trying to think of a word, but like his like legacy would be over. You know what I mean? Like people would be like, he was cheating that whole time. Like there, I don't know, respect goes away, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he had a lot more at stake than somebody like you and I, or like how we're not. I mean, when you're famous, I feel like it's probably a lot harder to be genuine because there are so many eyes on you and so many critics ready to just tear you apart. Whereas if you're not famous and, not well known, then, you just have a few people around you that may tear you down, but it's not like you're going to be all over the magazines and the newspapers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I think it's probably harder for famous people to admit their mistakes because they just know the backlash is going to be 10 times worse.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like his name like is just so well known. Like I'm
Hmm.
not super into all of that, like the news behind these races and everything. And even like I knew his name before this case study. Like I knew who that was. So
Yeah.
I feel like that just like means a lot. Like I don't know. I don't follow that kind of stuff and even I knew him. So it's like there's so many people out there that knew this man and he knew that. Like he knew that he was super famous and he had this huge platform. And if people found out that he was doing drugs, then all of that would go away. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's different for like the other people, because like the other people were doing drugs as well, but it's like he was like different in that way. Like he was so famous, so famous.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Um, okay, where are we now? What conclusions can we reach? Should we I don't know. I feel like we kind of already touched on it, but is there anything else that we want to discuss on what conclusions or
Um,
I
I don't
think
know.
it also, I'm sorry.
You're
Oh,
good. You're good. I'm gonna look through my case study really fast and find some more stuff that we can talk about.
yeah. I was just thinking about like how there there could be ways to avoid this to happen again because it's still happening apparently. But it says like the corruption in this organization that tries to fight this drug abuse and stuff in cycling. It's so corrupt that they can't do pretty much anything about it. So I think it's maybe also something that society might have to reject harder, probably. It has happened with other sports like football. I mean, soccer, here we call it football. And it has happened in the past that people have used drugs, like the best players in the world had used a lot of drugs and stuff like that, and they had to end up their careers very fast, very soon. And then um, younger sportsmen, they just learn from that, and now you can see that they have changed and they have this mindset, and they don't want that to happen to them. And it's because people, well, at least in this country, because Argentina is very sick about football, and we had this experience with one of the best players that was Maradona, and then we have the one now that's Messi, and they're like different poles because this Maradona, he was very he was using a lot of drugs and stuff like that. That's why he was rejected and kicked out uh, of the World Cup and stuff like that. And now the one that's Messi, he he was like an example of not doing that, and his career was longer, and people could enjoy of his career by watching him. He won everything. So it was also because the whole people in the country was like rejecting that he was the other one was using drugs, and that they never wanted that to happen again to people in the sport. And like it's something that happened a lot in the society. Like they will say like don't use drugs, stay away from it if you want to be a good player and stuff like that. But yeah, about this organization, it seems like it's very corrupt, and that's why they can't get too much about it.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to, I mean, obviously we can look from our perspective and be like, oh my gosh, why would they do something like that? You know, they shouldn't have even never done that. But it's hard to judge them if you haven't actually been in that situation. Like I can, I mean, I'm not saying I want to go out and do drugs or anything, but I can kind of see why it would be so difficult if like you were in that surrounded by that environment where you're so well known and everybody in there is like doing that. Like, I mean, it's easier to stand your ground when you have values, but what if you don't even have that like foundation in the first place? Like, I can see how a lot of people can easily slip into making these bad decisions, especially when they're in the type of environment that they're in. You know, that's so anyway, yeah, I try not to judge them for their choices. I mean, obviously Jesus is the only one who can judge them, right? So
Well, yeah, I had wrote about because in these case studies we have to put a couple other sources other than the actual case study. And I was like, I don't even know like what to put like for my sources or whatever, like other stories of the same thing. I don't know. So I found some sources that were just like kind of talking against steroids in the sense of like health wise. But yeah, I didn't even know about a lot of the side effects of taking steroids and different steroids. But another thing is I feel like steroids are really like coming back, but not just in sports, because now it's well, they said that they passed a law, and I think that he was even going against the law while he was doing these tours and whatever. Um,
Mhm.
but I feel like so many people my age, like 20-year-olds and younger, are doing steroids now or some form of supplements because working out is such a huge thing now. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that some of these were side effects of taking steroids or like creatine or whatever. A lot of people take creatine my age. And I'm just like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, this is so bad for you. And so many people do it. And then they go and work out. Like so many people have heart attacks or strokes when they're working out because they're taking steroids or creatine or pre-workout or whatever. So I don't know. That's a whole like other thing. But I just think it's crazy that steroids are kind of coming back, but not in sports and like working out for people that are super young. I'm like, you don't need steroids. What the heck?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I used to work at the gym. It was as like a little side hustle thing. Every Saturday morning I would work at a gym and then I got a free gym membership. It was a pretty good deal. But in that process, or when I worked there, that's when I realized how many supplements are out there and all of them, they all know about it. All of them know exactly what everybody's taking. Everybody knows where to get this and that. And yeah, my eyes were definitely open to supplements after I worked there. But yeah, I remember all of them would take creatine. Everybody was taking like BCAs and all these things. And there's like pre-workouts, and some of them they would like take multiple different pre-workouts together. And I remember I what was it? I got somebody gave me one, and I think it was a BCA or something. I can't even remember, but my heart was pounding so fast. I was like, "Oh man, there's no way this can be good for me." And so anyway, I stopped. I didn't do that anymore, but yeah, I don't know, it's pretty sketchy, the things that are normalized in society, you know.
Yeah, and I think that like even with like protein powder, it's like, oh, everyone like needs protein in their diet. But my younger brother, he's super into working out now. He's 16 and my mom's a
Mhm.
little concerned. So like at the doctor's appointment or whatever, he was talking to the doctor about how he wanted to start upping his protein intake, just like with protein powder and water or whatever. And the doctor was like, why would you take more protein? Like, as long as you're eating like a healthy amount, you don't need more. Your body does
Mm.
not need more protein. Like, it can hurt your body if you take it. My little brother's like, what do you mean it can hurt my body? She's like, well, like, I'm not like a dietitian or whatever, but it can severely affect your kidneys specifically. And I was like, that is so freaky. Like, that just taking extra protein in your diet can literally kill your kidneys. So yeah, taking any kind of supplements, like more than what you should be taking, you need to be so careful. I'm like, I'm scared. Like I don't want to do any of that stuff. But um yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's become a thing where it's like not, it's being sold to you as something that's necessary, but it's really all that's all that it is just a sales pitch. Somebody making a product and trying to make money and just telling you that you need it when you don't really need it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I feel like it's just such a huge thing right now. Like over the past couple years, I've seen so many of my friends just start going to the gym, like vigorously going to the gym, like every single day for hours. And I'm just like, that can't be good for your body. Like it just can't. Like, especially if you're doing things wrong, you can severely hurt yourself. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like a huge thing right now is working out all the time, every day, and then taking supplements and pre-workout and I don't know. It's so
Yeah.
crazy to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of seems like these things kind of turn more into an obsession than an actual health benefit.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm looking at my case study right now, and something that I wrote down was like what I said earlier when I was saying like they need to have doctors do tests because it's one thing to have laws put in place, but if you're not actually checking to see like are they actually following the laws, it's like what's the point? So I was saying that there could be like doctors doing tests to make sure the contestants or the racers of these competitions aren't doing drugs, but I'm concerned about payoffs and stuff like that. Like, especially working with famous people, it's like you don't want to get on their bad side. They have a huge platform. They can literally like ruin your life by one post saying, this doctor didn't let me compete or whatever, even if you're the one cheating and then everybody's against you, you know? So that's something that I wrote about in the like, how can we resolve this part? What did you guys say for like how can we resolve this?
I wrote it was basically to just clean this whole organization to stop the corruption, and so they can actually work on fighting this drug consumption and making people more aware of this how the things that can happen if you take those. So basically, start there, just filtering and see what can be done better in the company or the organization. Just uh, yeah, yeah. Initially, that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I didn't even think of that, like an anti-drug or supplement campaign. Because like you always see those commercials on TV, like the anti-vaping commercials. So that could be a really good like campaign to stop like drug supplements in these races. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. I think they could also maybe do maybe like surprise tests, if that makes sense. Like what if like I don't know who would even monitor it, maybe the actual like Olympics and the races and all that stuff. They could um have surprise drug testings on their contestants like during events or something like that. I don't know. I mean, obviously anybody can get paid off, but at the end of the day, I feel like eventually lies are going to come out, kind of like with this situation. But yeah.
Yeah, I also just thought like having more like consequences. I mean, I don't know. Like consequences kind of motivate people to not do bad things. I mean, like for us, it's
Hmm.
different. It's like we have a church, we have like a community, and we know that things are wrong, but a lot of people don't have that kind of like ethical mentality that we do. I don't know. I feel like just LDS people in general are just super honest, and I don't know, not everyone's like that. And so I feel like there needs to be some form of consequence. Like if you're caught and it's like it's a motivation to not do drugs, even though it's like you should be motivated anyways. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe some kind of like oh sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
no,
off.
you're good.
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe like some kind of like substantial fine or something.
That could definitely work. People, well, yeah, like because we were saying like people are motivated by money in these situations. So yeah, that could definitely be a good thing to do because they don't want to lose their money.
Yeah. And sponsors might drop them. Could like have maybe if there's sponsors out there, they could maybe they could even like hold random drug tests or something and
Definitely. Yeah, because like that makes them look bad. That makes their brand look bad. Sponsoring someone that's
yeah.
cheating, like what the heck? No one wants to buy from you then.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe part of the contract with sponsors and stuff could be like, if you're sponsoring this guy and he uses drugs, and you can't sponsor him anymore, or some part of the contract.
Yeah, or they
Mhm.
can like sign some kind of document or something before and say like, I hereby, whatever your name is, I'm not doing drugs or whatever the things are that they're using.
Yeah,
That
the
could
honor
handle
code.
it.
The honor
Yeah, the
code.
honor code for athletes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think situations like this also help prevent future situations because I don't know, they don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, I better not do that or else I'm gonna end up like this guy. You know what I mean? Like he kind of sets a bad example that future athletes don't want to follow, if that makes sense. People learning from other people's mistakes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I think
I
that's a
think,
good ending point. I'm like, I don't even know what else. Like, I looked through my whole case study. I'm like, we already said everything. I don't even know.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else.
Yeah, I don't have any other points either. I don't know. I just looked through my whole case study. I'm like, I think we already touched on everything. So,
At the end of the day, have integrity. That's the thing.
definitely. I feel like this is like a hard discussion to have with like just a few people too. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're usually supposed to have what, like 7 people in these discussions, 6 people. So,
Yeah. Yeah, not a lot of people were able to join today.
yeah, do you
That's
guys
all
know
right.
when Zoe will be back?
Oh, she's back.
Um,
She just couldn't.
yeah, she said she just forgot to let us know that she wasn't going to be able to make it today.
Okay. Well,
And
yeah,
then,
hopefully next week we'll have more people. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to join next week. I'm supposed to be driving down to Utah, so I'll let you guys know because the plans are kind of up in the air, but hopefully I can join.
yeah, that's one thing I'm a little worried about too, because so technically, since today was Nicole's, I think next week was supposed to be mine, but I have a couple job interviews next week, so I was hoping to push mine off for another week.
I mean,
Well,
But
we can
since
I
just
think
Nicole,
have her
Nicole
do
can.
it.
I think Nicole can do it anyways. She
Yeah,
couldn't.
okay, so yeah,
we can
maybe push off
probably just have
Nicole's
her
till
do
next
it.
Yeah.
week. Okay.
Yeah, like since she didn't do it today, maybe she can just do it next week. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
we're in front for her.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we could just talk about it in our
Yeah.
text WhatsApp discussion.
All right.
Okay.
I'll stop recording.